Sorry to keep you on.
Welcome everyone to our Weaver County Commission work meeting on, should know this, Monday, June 9th. It's my oldest daughter's birthday. It's a great reminder. Item 1 is discussion and or action for approval of minutes for the commission work session held on June 2nd.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 2, discussion regarding Westbridge Meadows rezone proposal. Charlie Ewert, Rick Grover, Sean Wilkinson, Billy Myers, Tammy Adelot. Looking for Charlie. Here we go.
Hello. Yeah, let me get on to the Zoom meeting for you guys. A little bit to go with you. So we chatted a little bit in our last work session on this item about density and about market demand, and before that, we talked a little bit about water and also in relationship with market demand. Today I was hoping to talk to you guys about open space, trails, parks, that kind of stuff. Make sure you guys are on board with us in that respect. The developer has proposed, so
You say being on board, or do you mean understanding what you're talking about?
that one.
Two
You don't-
different ones.
Yeah, you don't have to be on board at all, just whatever direction you guys want to give us at the end of this discussion. So, let's see.
Ow.
Get over.
This is gonna be a piece of crap.
I'm not sure. So with that in mind, here's the project area, which is way out west. Got a few different layers to run you through today. Sharon, just a recap for you to know from last week's meeting. These blue boundaries here. Let me turn some of this stuff off so you can see kind of the aerial here. The blue boundaries are the intended phase 1 and phase 2 of the project. So right now, if you were to drive out on 900 south, come down 7500, it's pretty close to the end of 7500. That would get to phase 1 and phase 2. They know that one of the things that we've negotiated with them as far as density goes, as far as units go, as far as safety goes, is they need second access. And so that's one of the reasons why you see this leg here. They're likely to start phases 1 and 2 together so that they can get this bridge in on 2550 south. Intention is being connecting 2550 south to 7500 west, opening up the entire area for development with a closed loop system. So
Now, hold on. That's different than what you said last week. You said, and I wanna, I guess, Jeff, I wanna hear it from you. Which phase you're gonna start first? You said you were gonna start maybe one phase first. And then the second one later. Now you just said they're likely gonna start them together. You don't think I pay attention in these meetings, but I do.
I know you do. Do you want that from Jeff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah,
What's the plan?
well, so we're.
Depends on what you sell or who buys
No,
what?
It's really dependent on a lot to do with the traffic study and the amount of units that we can build to begin with. So with one single point of access, we're restricted to 30 units.
So there are
So,
already 30 down there.
so the comment that we have to start with phases 1 and 2, that's accurate in that we have to build that bridge right out the gate. And then connect to 2550.
It's not just the bridge, but it's also the road, the infrastructure,
Absolutely.
everything that's gonna be laid in there before.
Absolutely, correct.
So you gotta put down a bit of money to get that going, just to get across there for now.
Yeah, that's
All right.
a bit of money is correct, but 1 and 2, so we depicted. The reason we depicted phases 1 and 2 the way they are is those two areas match up with the traffic study. That allows us, once we make that connection to 2550 south, and then we have the connection, we already have the existing 7500. Those two together allow us X amount of units, and phases 1 and 2 depict that many units.
Okay,
Does that
so
make sense?
the unintended consequence is yes, you do have the secondary access. And maybe that's what it would be called as a secondary access, but that cross is a railroad crossing, which UP is gonna start going crazy because we're adding all those extra homes.
And
So what's the dynamic as it relates to that, or the unintended consequence as it relates to
What we're
that?
gonna tell UP is that's why we're requiring the bridge out the gate.
right.
Because if that bridge is there out the gate, chances are people will use that. Chances are using that is a lot higher than using 7,500.
If this were approved, I wanna make sure that the county doesn't have any liability whatsoever in improving any type of secondary access across that
Track.
track.
Yeah.
Development agreement is written exactly like that.
That's correct. And we have talked to you.
So if UP goes on it, gets a wild hair and says, you gotta put that over.
Correct.
That'll be done.
That's on us. And we've had conversations with UP. We know where they stand today. But, you know, as Charlie said, the development agreement is very clear that that responsibility lies on us if they get a wild hair.
We don't know how they're gonna respond, right?
But I can also tell you, that's why right out the gate, we're gonna be making that connection to 2550.
Okay.
Because we understand the liability that comes with that.
Okay, just one, sorry, Madam Chair, if I
Keep
can
going,
continue grilling. You have all the easement, right of way access, everything else, once you cross the river to get up to another county road?
Working on it.
Is this 2550? That's my question.
Yes,
Yeah.
ish, yeah.
Say that
Right.
again?
It's 2550.
Yeah, that's 2550.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, and so the connection from where you show right there at the river, we would dip down, make that
My
connection.
question's the same as Jim's.
So we've had multiple conversations with the landowners over on the east side. And for what it's worth, some context on that, when we first started going at this 3 years ago, we were looking at 1600 south as the
Right.
primary path across the river, but we didn't have consensus with landowners on that side. And then, you know, in lots of conversations with landowners to the 2550 south, along with staff, we said, and honestly, our desire to start on the south end of the project is also pretty high. So all of that pointed to, let's make 2550 south our first connection.
From me, there's not any argument. I think 2550 is the preferred route. I think
Yeah.
it's a better route as you sit and look at it.
Agreed.
2550, 12, 2550, that's the one we ought to go next.
Freeway interchange.
Yeah, cause it's the freeway interchange, right?
Yeah, agreed. And then, like I said, as it relates to development planning, it makes more sense for us to start on the south end of the project and then work our way north over time.
Does that link, and I don't know this, does that link exist through West Haven? So that 2550 would be a contiguous or all through there? Just-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It goes,
Okay.
it goes all the way to the freeway, right? 2550 south, so,
Mhm.
well, exactly,
It goes-
which
goes
will,
47.
yeah,
which will all be redesigned. In fact, we
Yeah.
just redid that through the,
To Waycott.
yeah, so that'll all be done,
There you go.
okay?
Did
So-
you, what,
Just real quick, this is how it was proposed all the way through the planning commission process too, was phase 1 and phase 2 would go together.
yeah,
For whatever that's worth.
right.
This is not a surprise.
And it's just because of the comment made last week that I bring that up,
I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that everybody knows that.
okay?
So the way the development agreement is written, not only does it say that if Union Pacific pulls the trigger and says, fix this crossing, that comes out of their pocket. It also says that you can get, well, up to a certain number of dwelling units on this 2550 and 7500. So when those are connected together, that gives you X number of dwelling units. After that, that sends you into phase 2 or 3, which at that point, we're looking at other ways to access the property as well, whether it's over the railroad tracks, whether it's over 16.
Another
excuse me,
bridge or
18.
whatever.
That's right.
Widening, all kinds of
So
options.
how many units then before it triggers the second access?
800. Oh,
800?
sorry, third access. Second access comes out 1 unit.
Yeah, right,
Okay,
right, that, yeah.
so you get 800 units after the bridge is built.
That's right.
Yeah, we actually get, so with the bridge built and 7500 west, we get roughly 2,700, and that's what's depicted right there.
2,700 units?
Yeah, it's like, I can pull it up, but it's roughly that. And so without then triggering the next, we have this smorgasbord buffet, we can widen 2550, we can widen, I mean, another bridge. There are options for us to solve additional trips or additional units at that point. And so as 2,700 units that's a decade or more, right? That gets us going in the project. It gets us, and then by then we're gonna have a much better lay of the land, and we'll make a choice on what the third option is for improvements to allow additional units. So
Jeff, I was just guessing, is 2,500, is that about break even? Or are you still thinking break even is even further beyond that?
break evens further beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are three increments in density allocation. It's based on transportation. So the first 800 is based on having an emergency egress. They gotta have the bridge built to full standard, and then the road from phase one over to the bridge and over to where 50 or 2550 ends right now. All of those have to be done to an emergency egress standard that the fire chief is gonna be comfortable with. And I think we said paved. Normally the fire chief gets to decide whether or not it's paved. I think we said paved. Then before they can get from 800 to 25 or 1,000, whatever, or excuse me, 25 or 3,000, they have to complete that road to full county standard. So they.
You're talking 2,550?
2550 as it comes up into the project.
How far improved from east to west? How far improved from east to west is 2,550? Where is it gonna choke going to the freeway?
Right now it goes to 5,100 and ends there. Between 47 and 51, that's not in our.
is it for your house or your
Yeah,
house? 20 feet?
yeah,
It
it's
feels like it's about
choked
10.
there.
Is that where that is out there?
Yeah, from
Yeah.
51 up to 35 is not improved yet. From
Okay,
30 from 35 up to 1,900 is.
okay.
Right.
So we've been buying right of way, and I think from 47 all the way to 35, we got the plan and design and all that. And then from 47 to 51, that's the trouble spot. That's gonna be the choke point, and it ends at 51 right now. So they'll have to extend basically from 4,700 to their project.
Yeah, but it's all the way along from 35 to 47 and to 51 is gonna have to be a
Yeah.
big deal. Have to be a big road.
And probably the worst part of it's from 43 to 51 right now. It's practically a choke point right
Yeah.
now. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
agree with that or not, but
It is.
it's not good.
So something the development agreement, proposed development agreement also says is, at major increments, the county engineer can ask for a traffic study. Basically, what we'll be doing is we'll be watching the traffic counts at those major intersections on 2550. And on 12th Street and on 1800 when that time comes, to verify that the amount of traffic that's coming into this project doesn't exceed the capacity of that intersection. As soon as it starts to exceed the capacity of the intersection, maybe it needs turn lanes, maybe there needs to be a second queue lane or whatever it is. That's when we come to the developer and say, hey, you've got a proportionate share of this. You're responsible for 90% of the impact on this intersection. Therefore, we want you to pay 90% of the improvement, and then we'd use impact fees to do the difference.
So here's let me, if I can just keep going, thank you. Here's the thing that this is gonna come out awkward, and it's not meant to be offensive, it's just meant to be so I have clarification. If you're putting 800 units out there. No, you're gonna put 2,700 units out there.
Off of a
Okay. 800 to then 2,700 units. Now we're gonna have all these cars coming in and wanting to get up to the freeway. I'm just gonna suppose that's the case.
Yep.
Get into town, doesn't matter where they're getting to, they're gonna use that road.
It's gonna be their primary route.
So at what point, Charlie, this is another thing too, at what point? Let's say the people who own the property along that thoroughfare from once they get across the river all the way into 3,500. They fight or they don't want to develop or nobody does anything. And now we got this little pencil width road out there that's gonna be with all those cars. They say the county's gotta go do something. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because we just got done last week approving that subdivision where it was, we had to bite and scratch and everything else to get another 2 crockin' feet. And then you say, well, if it develops across the street, then they're gonna have to do this. I think it was 1400 south.
It was.
And so at what time is it, if nothing else happens, we have to, in my mind, we have to expect or plan for the worst. If nothing else happens, then they come to the county and say, well, you gotta make that deal 80 feet or 120 feet, which out there is probably gonna be 120 feet. You know, that's a lot more.
So
I don't wanna have to, I don't think it's fair that that we participate in that.
I agree. And we've had that conversation as well. In answer to your question, at what time do we do that? Time is right now. So the county is making those improvements. It'll be 100-foot wide, or excuse me, 80-foot wide right of way, up to 4,700 with road improvements. That's actually gonna bring up, so that'll be road improvements, including shoulders. So you'll have good travel lane width, you'll have shoulders. And hopefully, if we have enough money, some good pedestrian facilities.
We're never gonna have enough money, Charlie.
Agreed, agreed. Hopefully we get some good pedestrian facilities alongside of it. We've got some, a decent amount of impact fees that we can help invest in that. But when those major construction points, when those major trigger points hit, before 2550 exceeds a level of service C, normally the traffic studies say level of service D, we said, no, we want to go to a higher level of service because people live out there right now and they shouldn't have to go deal with a level of service D. So when it exceeds level of service C, that's when we would trigger the need for another road. So that's when 1800 south comes in. If you have 1800 south and 2550 and 12th Street, all 3-lane roads with shoulders fully improved, you've got 3 different ways to get into this project. You'll diversify the traffic load, both coming from the north, coming from the south, and coming from Ogden out there.
So are you saying you would trigger the 1800 south extension before improvements between 4700 and 5100 on 2550?
That's the goal. The goal is that none of these roads, whether it be 2550, 1800, or 12th Street, have to be expanded beyond 3 lanes before the next road is built. So we shouldn't see a 5-lane 2550 until we have a
Okay.
3-lane
But
1800.
you would have a 3-lane 2550 between 47 and 51 and connecting to this.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. Why wouldn't we plan for that today?
We are.
So why wouldn't we plan for? Case in point, if I go out, take SR 193 at the top by the mountain and head up there by Hill Air Force Base and take that dude all the way west.
Mhm.
Okay? That one or the other one, that new interchange well, there's a million new interchanges in Layton. But any of those roads, you go out there, those roads are like, they're huge wide.
Yeah.
They've got 2 lanes each direction, plus center lanes, plus side lanes, plus, I mean, now they gotta be, they're huge. And then the people's houses are offset off of that. Why wouldn't we wanna protect that swath now with right of way?
Yeah.
For the day in 20, 50 years, that's the way that is, instead of, all that should be planned for now, instead of tearing houses out.
Yep.
Like they're doing in Roy right now.
Yep.
On 5600.
Yep.
Right?
100% agree. And that is what we
Okay,
are doing
agreeing,
now.
but is that how this is gonna, on 1800 and 2550 and
Yep.
probably 31 Midland and everything else out there?
Regardless of whether or not this development happens, we're already doing what you're asking for.
Okay,
On 2550, we're doing 100 feet. So the county's only buying 80 feet. Whenever someone comes in to subdivide the property there, we exact 100 feet. So
I promise you that if this ain't the case, I'll be dead before you, but I will haunt you.
I invite you to. So there are some front yards that haven't previously been dedicated, and that's why the county is having to buy as much as we are to get up to 80 feet. So to get up to 100 feet, there will still be some front yards that needs to be purchased.
How wide are those roads out in West Davis County out there? Aren't they 120?
They're probably 132.
So I think they're over 120.
Yeah.
132.
probably.
So why wouldn't we go to 132?
So we do actually on 2550, we go to 132 in our plan from 4700 all the way into this project. So we would have a pretty wide right of way
Great, so
there.
you just told me you created a choke point again from 4700 to the freeway.
Not necessarily, because 47, so this all comes down to what the traffic study says. The traffic study said that a big traffic loader is gonna be 4700 west. So if you have a lot of traffic coming from 4700 west into this project, you don't have as much going between 47 and 30.
Well, and that's debatable because the big traffic loader will be the West Weaver corridor.
Eventually.
Sure.
If it comes to fruition, correct. Yeah, and I don't know that, if I remember speaking with your traffic engineer, I don't know that they took that freeway into consideration when they looked at their traffic study. The traffic study kind of scared me a little bit because without all of these other streets, without 1800 going in, 2550 going in, basically said that we're gonna load up at full build out, we're gonna load up 4700 west to a 7-lane road. And I said, no, we're not doing that. We're gonna diversify the traffic on these different streets so that we can handle or live with 3-lane roads as long as we can. So we're not significantly changing the future, or the way that the community looks in the future. But the whole time gaining enough right of way that we can expand to 5 lanes or heaven forbid, even 7 lanes if we have to. Again, that's 50 years down the road. So I don't want to scare anyone on that 7-lane highway. We're way down the road on that.
Charlie, or Commissioner.
Yeah.
The need for the east-west right now is to go north-south. You gotta get east to go north and south. If you get the north-south down there in the part of the county where it should be, you won't need as much, there won't be as big a need for the east-west.
Stop,
Because
hold on
essentially-
just a minute. Okay,
Does that make sense? You're trying to get to I-15 is what I'm saying.
and go
Once you-
south.
And go south or north. Yeah, there's some traffic that goes east, but you still gotta get on I-15 to get on 84, or to go to Salt Lake and get on I-80.
Yeah, I get it.
So you'll reduce with the new corridor, if and when they put it in, you'll reduce the east-west need to some degree because you're creating another place to go north-south.
Quicker.
Which
I
makes
know.
even a bigger case for legacy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And further west.
This does that with that, and that's why
You're
these
not gonna go
counties.
the way west it is now,
Yeah.
so.
But you know what I'm saying?
That's dead in the water, so I hope you're not thinking
Yes.
about taking it out to 8,300.
No.
That is not gonna happen.
No, not 83.
We know that
Not
for a
that
fact.
far west.
Yeah.
About where it is now is where I'm
Yeah,
talking
the
about.
minute
Where
you
we're
gotta take
planning
that
for.
through the bird refuge, you know.
Yeah.
you're
We're gonna call that the Froer Highway
Not
out
gonna
there, I
happen.
think.
So Charlie, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So we know that we've got these guys on the hook for whatever comes about. My question is, what about the other developments that
Yes.
come in over that period of time that are gonna have an impact on that traffic?
Yep.
That you're gonna, all the traffic's not gonna be generated from these guys.
And that is key. And that,
So
that's
you've
what-
gotta have a plan for these other subdivisions that come in now based upon usage, based upon density, whatever it is, that they need to contribute to these future 3-lane roads, whatever they may be. Don't go back in and try to buy their homes. So that should be part of the conversation development agreements. I would say with any development now in Western Weaver County,
yes.
there needs to be a plan for how are they gonna contribute to these roads?
Let me give you an example. So if you recall this parcel right here on the screen. That is Navy Meadows,
Yeah.
3300 south,
Do that again, Charlie.
sorry, coming up
Okay.
canal, cutting across. Down, with the exception of these houses here. That's Navy Meadows.
That's approved.
It is approved, and when they came in, we said 3300 south is too narrow. You need to
Yeah.
upgrade it to the 80-foot wide right of way. So when that subdivision is installed, they will upgrade that to an 80-foot wide right of way.
Just on their side of the street, though.
It'll be just on their side. Yep. When the landowners on the south side come in and do the same, they'll have theirs. So this is in part answering Harb's question and in part answering your question, Commissioner, for as other developers come in, those street improvements are gonna be needed. And if we're gonna be counting these guys' impact on those streets against them, we should be counting each of those developers' impact as well. It's just, how do you do that? Because you don't know exactly when those developments are gonna be coming in. What we've got these guys on the hook for is at major intersections we're gonna do traffic studies and we're gonna verify that those intersections are not their fault, and if they are their fault, whatever percentage of it is their fault, they're gonna pay for it. But if the percentage is all the other developers' fault, we have counts today from their traffic study, so we know what the baseline is. So if all the other developers are creating more impact as well, they'll have to put it to those intersections.
Okay, well. So how does that work in reality? How, do you tie that in with the I mean, that's a great thought, that's
So,
my point, is they should pay for it.
yes,
But if
Those
they're,
future developers.
but for future, let's say they're not on a 3300, let's say they're tucked back in here on a road that already may be a conforming road,
Yeah.
but they're bringing in 100 units. They should pay part of the bill.
Yep.
So how do you make those guys pay part of the bill?
but you mean part of the bill of a road that was previously
Yeah.
built? Yeah,
And or future, yeah.
yep.
I'm
That
just
is,
saying, anybody that built out there will have an impact on those roads. It's not.
Yep.
Proper just to say, look, just because these guys are low hanging fruit right now, they're gonna pay for it all.
that's a question that I have for Cortland right now. Something that he's looking up and trying to figure out how we go about doing it. Going from ridiculous back to reasonable again, the ridiculous side of it is all those roads out there exist for a reason. So every single house that is built out there, they're benefiting because somebody else, taxpayers or WACOG or whatever, paid for those roads to get so they should be paying into that. So that's on the extreme side. On the more reasonable side, when you put 100 lots right next to 3300 South or 2550, you have a direct proportionate impact. on
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's an easy one. I'm just saying the ones
Yep.
that may not be that easy to.
It's a little
tie.
more obscure, yep.
Yeah,
So I'm working with Cortland to try and figure out how to do that. The easiest way to do this is for the county to build the road, pave the road, maintain the road, or work with a developer to do that. And then use their impact fees, the new developer's impact fees, to pay whatever that cost is back. That's the easiest way from a financial perspective to comply with the state law. It is not the easiest way when it comes to actual road building, because usually the counties don't build roads, right? Counties,
We'd have
let
to have
developers-
cash to do it all right now. We don't have the cash to do that.
so that's the hard part. So we're trying to figure out, yeah, and
No.
yeah, you could do bonds, you could do
No, we're not gonna do that. We have to have cash in the bank. I don't wanna try to figure that out.
makes sense. So
well, you answered so impact fees, as long as we have control and making sure everybody's contributing. For at that time they develop what we think is a proportionate share of that cost is probably fair. I mean.
Yep.
If it doesn't happen for 10 or 15 years, yeah, the county's gonna end up, or somebody's gonna end up paying more.
yep,
But
and the
at
hard
least you
part,
have some skin in the game.
that's exactly
Mhm.
right. The hard part with impact fees is we have to spend that money
Yeah.
within 6 years.
Yeah.
Meaning we'd have to know where these impacts are gonna, so I would much rather, if we can find it through our legal department, if we can find a way to say. This road has been improved, therefore you, whoever, whether it's 6 years from now or 10 or 20 years from now. Whoever is moving in that area needs to pay their proportionate share.
Somehow tie them to that.
Then we know exactly what their impact is, based on the improvements that needed to get to their property. But from my understanding, something that forward thinking hasn't been done yet. We're trying to find a way to see if we can make it comply with the Impact Fee Act. Most of the time when jurisdictions want to do it that way, they bond, and then they pay themselves back.
What does state code say right now? Does it allow us to do that or not? Other than the 6-year requirement for impact fees, which may need to be changed.
The Impact Fee Act is not quite as clear. What is clear is if we pay for it, we can charge the exact cost to each of the future landowners who move in onto it. So if we front end it, the impact fees can go back to paying that cost back. We
Okay,
do know that. What is not clear is, can we charge an impact fee to pay us back?
for the future.
Basically, yep, there's best way to say that, for the future. And yes, we can, as long as we have it on our 6-year plan, and we could do it within 6 years from now. And that's where the trouble spot comes in.
That
So,
is the trouble spot.
so for example, one thing that I'm trying to figure out when it comes to trails, we've got a lot of trails that are planned along these highways that we are going to be using impact fees on. However, some of those trails are going to be creating excess capacity, not just for those who are here or who are incoming, who have already paid the impact fee. That's going to be excess capacity for all the new homes that have not yet paid that impact fee. And I'm trying to work through our attorneys to find out how can we capture that impact fee to reimburse our own impact fee fund. And so we're trying to figure it out. I'm not aware of other communities that have done it this way. Leveraging impact fees to offset costs for other impact fees. Usually it's just a municipal bond or general fund or whatever it is pays for it, and then the impact fee pays it back, so.
And from a developer's point of view as well, when we approach project this size in conjunction with the county, we will spend a significant amount of resources internally to actually review the impact fee facility, impact fee plan and see where we can help. So we will be very much engaged in that process with the county, in that review process, how we can all together solve those problems. Because look, it's in our best interest as well to help the county as much as we can to look at the entirety of the area, because right now we are the elephant in the room that's on the hook for, almost every intersection between our project and the 15. And we want that to change as well. And we anticipate that will change with, infill development. And so if we can be on the front end of helping plan that impact fee structure, it just benefits us. So we will be lending a hand as much as possible. And like I said, we intend to spend significant amount of resources in helping the review of all of that.
Right, that's in your best interest.
It is. It really is. But at the same time, it's also in the best interest of the county as well.
No, it
to
is.
see it all.
Yeah.
Right.
And on that subject, it's actually a really good point. We can require a developer to upsize facilities.
Yeah.
Whether it be the street facilities, whether it be the sewer facilities, it's just we can't require them to have to pay for it unless it is the portion that's directly proportionate to their project.
Sure.
And so if we tell the developer, all right, we know that this project needs 2550 to be built to the luxury highway standard, and they say, okay, but only this percentage of that is actually our impact.
Yeah.
Then we say, go do it and we'll pay you back with our impact fees or something like that.
And you saw our projects, both our projects, the American Fork project that we stopped at. We did significant amount of pioneering, right? Where we put in, facilities that were way larger than what our impact was. And as a developer, we are very willing to do that. And that's actually where this in-depth study into the impact fee plan comes from, where we can then, once it's all set and we all understand it, you'll see a developer very quickly agree to upsize something beyond capacity, knowing that the impact fees can pay it back over time. And so that's another reason why, we would want to complete that study in conjunction with the county, because we understand we'll be pioneering a lot of stuff. We get that.
And that
Chris, did you-
6-year deadline, that 6-year timeframe, if it's funded, no matter who it's funded by, county, developer, impact fees, that 6-year deadline doesn't matter if it's been funded on the front end and we're just spending the next 10 to 20 years
Right.
paying back.
Well, maybe we should increase that from 6 to 10 or 15 or.
That's state code, but yeah, I would agree with you.
That's
It'd
what
be
he
nice
means
to
by
increase
we.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, have to talk to the legislature about
Chris,
it.
did you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. Since you said this is forward thinking, that not a lot of people have looked at this before. There's no attorney in my office that knows the impact fee ordinance and statute better than Cortland.
That's why I called him.
But you're gonna, and this is not, this is one of his strengths, you're gonna get a very conservative opinion. I wonder, and something for us to talk offline about, is this might be an opportunity or appropriate situation to roundtable this with all of the civil staff at one of our meetings where we sit down and go over the statute together.
That'd be great.
It's one where you're gonna have the battle of the conservatives and the more flexible. You got Cortland, Lauren on one side, you got Barron and Keel on the other side. But that's one of the ways that we use to really flesh out and do a proper risk analysis.
Okay,
Commissioners, Charlie, we're not gonna get to Parks and Open Space today because our time slots up, but is there anything else we wanna add with roads?
No, I think,
You can come back next week with that, if that's okay.
so next week's the holiday, but the holiday after,
Holiday
we're gonna talk about roads. So maybe we'll talk about open space next time. We just flipped it, I guess.
no, I'm good. I think you answered
Off track.
my
Okay.
questions.
Anything else about roads
Yeah.
to add?
What a nice, robust discussion today.
It's the discussion for 2 weeks from now, so we're really ahead of the game.
I'm talking about
job.
today, I'm talking about our discussion today.
Well, make your notes, 2 weeks, you could forget about it.
I won't forget about, this is absolutely, this is the biggest thing we've done since I've been here. We're talking about a whole new city.
That's,
I don't know of another project in Weaver County that's this big, all of Weaver County, including the incorporated areas,
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it to us in small
bite-sized pieces.
pieces.
He said he's the elephant, we're just trying to eat
Yeah,
it.
there you go, one slice
One
is
step at a
good.
time.
Okay, well then, there's our discussion from 2 weeks from today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with
Today's discussion.
today's discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
I gotta go put this in the charger.
Eric? Commissioner, I got rescheduled for 2:30.
2:30?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, we've got everyone back now, so we'll go on to agenda item 3. Discussion regarding opioid settlement. Chris Crockett, we have Linnell Jensen here as well. Chris, thanks for bringing this back. Just when we thought it was a done deal.
Oh, it's okay. And it really was, Commissioner Flohr had requested that it come on another work session, so I apologize that that was not scheduled and it went on the agenda, but it's all been the poll, so.
We're good.
The changes that come from, that you asked to be made from the last time that we met was on human services on page 1 of 8. I've changed it to say at the bottom, very bottom of the page, contractor with human services will be responsible for fronting all costs associated with design and permitting process for the new facility, but may seek reimbursement for those costs once a building permit has been secured and sufficient assurance is made to the commission that there is adequate funding to complete the project. So the concerns were last time, at what point do we trigger the reimbursement period? The only thing I could think of was a building permit, to make sure that they've obtained all of the necessary approvals from Ogden City. And then there was some concern, especially when Kevin had said that these might have to come back to the commission to ask for more money. Are they gonna have enough to complete the project? And so we didn't want to make any commitments that you're going to be entitled to this unless you have a plan that the whole funding of the project is going to be there. And so it gives complete discretion to the commission to make sure that they actually have the funding necessary to finish the building.
Right.
So when it says they may seek reimbursement for those costs, that makes it sound like it's not guaranteed, which I think is what we're after.
So there should be two things in there. So what we had originally tied it to actual construction costs and not design fees and architect plans. And so I can certainly change this language to tighten it up and make it clearer if you would like. The way that I had intended to write that was two things, building permit, and then you have sufficient assurance to make sure that you get the final say in whether they have enough in their budget to complete the project. If they don't demonstrate that to your satisfaction, then you don't have to issue a reimbursement to them.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
So if it says that, I'm good.
yes.
But that's exactly what I wanted to say. I don't wanna be committed to paying for a design for a building that can't be funded.
That was the agreement.
Mhm.
That's a great way to put it.
That was the agreement.
You know? Because that's a waste of money. If
that
we
what-
don't have funds to build it.
So let me just, if you don't mind, I'll just read that sentence one more time.
Don't grow a cow unless you got the pasture cage.
Unless you can see
Yeah,
there.
That's what I think it is.
Well-
That's the health department.
I know, I've got two health departments. I don't.
You?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, because I took the copies from the.
I've got two health departments. I don't have
I
it.
have two human
I'm
services.
without all this.
There should be on the first page.
We've got it.
at the bottom.
Now we got it straight.
Okay,
Okay, if it says that, I'm good.
The second one with the health department, and I know you're probably gonna wanna go into the actual funding request. But I had just put in there, hold up, email. That's something.
Is there a proposal attached here somewhere?
It should be attached as exhibit, B.
Okay,
in
keep
the
going.
back. But what I had put in there essentially as under the reporting requirement that they should provide progress reports as required by the commission. So they have a yearly statutory reporting requirement. Commissioner Ford, you had suggested biannual 6 months
Right.
reporting, and then Bryce mentioned he could give you reports anytime. So I just made it flexible and open. Anytime you want to report, you can ask them for a report.
Oh, good. Yeah, he didn't seem opposed to that at all.
No, he says they keep ongoing tracking of these statistics, and so anytime you want to report. I can tighten that up. I put it in there at the discretion of the commission. If you want an actual set triggered reporting time that they come in every 6 months, happy to do that.
Well, I would rather, Madam Chair, I'd rather have a guaranteed 6-month review or any time that the commission desires.
I could do both, yes.
I think we ought to have this is 6
Scheduled,
months
yeah.
scheduled, so I don't know about you, but things tend to slip by me if they're not scheduled.
they do me all the time.
Yeah. And then, so my suggestion was a 6 and 12 month. Now, the most important part of that is that based upon those reviews, I want the ability to reevaluate
For the following years,
the following years.
same.
So, in other words, the reason for those 6 and 12-month reviews is to say, okay, are you doing your job? Show me the outcome, show me the results. We're not gonna they could come in and say, here's our results. We don't see it. There's nothing there that proves it. And they say, well, but we still have access. You can't cut us off for 2 more years. I don't want that to happen. So however we need to word that is those reviews will determine how we go forward. Does that make sense? I mean,
That's what I would
it's
like.
kind of
to
like
see.
cold accountability, as I've been used
Do
to.
you want to make it so it's not a full 3-year funding, but it's a yearly,
I would like to. Based
Well, that
on,
solves the
based
problem.
on reporting.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I'm saying. We take out the 3-year provision, put in the 1 year. And we do have a little more information since that meeting. I reached out and we had that discussion, thanks to Linnell, about, okay, how do we really deal with prevention versus treatment? I mean, if we could continue to treat the same people, or we can stop people from starting it, which would be what I call prevention. So I actually called Luke Rasmussen at Ogden City and asked him, what have you got going that we can help you with? Because it needs to start in grade school, junior high, and high school. He actually has a team in place. But I said, well, could we do some additional funding that would help? He said, absolutely. So Linnell sent him an application.
And I talked to him for a little bit.
Yeah.
And
he's
also
really
Weaver
excited.
District?
No, they have not been talked to, and that's what I wanted to ask you too. Do you want to talk to them as well, or one of you that knows the Weber superintendent?
Sure.
They do need to know, because I was thinking they might be going, why is the county
Well, I-
helping Ogden City and not
We
talking
need to
us?
call Weber.
Yeah, we will. But before we skip to that, let me go back to this health department one. So I think you're understanding how often we want the reporting, 6
So I
and
would-
12.
I would structure it similar to the way that we do the Visit Ogden, where they have to report every year to the commission in order to qualify to receive next year's allotment and funding.
But the
Okay.
reporting doesn't qualify them.
That's just one of the requirements. We can make this into a year agreement, and then they can make the request for the second and third.
That's what I would like. I don't want the report to trigger the additional years, just to come in and report.
Just come in
It
there.
has to show progress.
So should we just bring this down to a 1-year agreement?
I think so, and then the reporting could trigger up to 3 years. Ooh, if they can prove results.
Yeah, but I
Or
think,
maybe it's just a reapplication.
Why
I
don't we
love
make it
the
a
track.
year agreement?
I love the track that you're on. But I think we need to be, if you're gonna say reporting, it has to be a little more, it can't be that vague. Well, we reported and
Mhm.
it has to have some tangible or some.
Yeah.
We send out with ARPA, we send out a quarterly report that everyone has to fill out and send back to us. We could put together some kind of a report if you want.
Yeah, I
They
think-
have to fill out every 6 months and send back that's saying what they've accomplished, what results they're seeing.
so I think if they did that at 6 months and 12 months,
Mhm.
then I would really kind of like them to reapply.
Do you
And if
want them
it's,
to
and if it's a
reapply?
program that's shown progress, then we would consider that successful.
If it's the same program, do they need to totally reapply, or they can say
Apply for an
After-
extension or
uh-huh,
something.
to extend to the next year, and then you decide whether to grant it for the next year?
Yeah, I
or
just
not?
want there to be a decision made after the first year.
Mhm.
We should be deciding, are they seeing progress or not?
Mhm.
And not just, thanks to the report, you get another year.
So
You
maybe
know?
I could say.
Then we did 5 seminars and
Yeah.
I could do funding for 1 year with potential funding.
I think we just say
2 more
commissioners will have the option to renew for an additional period of time, whether that be
Based
1
on the
year.
report.
Yeah, based upon the reports or outcomes.
Yearly for the next 2 years or something, for an additional 2 years, but have to apply or be approved yearly with the potential of 2 additional years. I don't know
Mhm.
what you guys are
Mhm.
thinking, but
That should be really easy to write.
Okay, so then that brings me to my next question, and that's about, what did you call it, Linnell, supplanting?
supplanting.
So I'm looking at the I'm trying to find this through their proposal. I'm looking at something called strategy 1. Strategy 1, increase community partner knowledge and participation through conferences annually. RX Summit, Fall Conference, and Bryce Canyon. RX Summit and Bryce Canyon are 2 that I've personally been invited to over the last 3 years, so they're not new. I don't think we can spend the money on that.
I would say you can't if they've already received that in their budget.
So technically, I guess this is supplanting, and correct me, if they already had the funds and now they're taking those funds and putting them
Somewhere
somewhere
else,
else
that's what
and
I'm
using
saying.
these funds to pay that,
That's what I'm talking
that's the
about.
planning.
That's.
But if they lost the funding for that,
I think it's in their budget. I mean, the RRX, one or the other just happened. Might have been Bryce Canyon.
I think it was Bryce King, wasn't it?
Right, it just happened, so.
what's
it's in their-
happening this week, I think.
It's
it
in
might
their
be the
budget,
Bryce
then it's
Canyon.
clearly in their budget. And I don't think this qualifies.
If that's the case, we'll take a look at the statute. So I remember asking them about it because it's prohibited.
Yeah, and the other one is personnel costs. There are, I can't find that sheet.
Well, and
I
it's,
want it to look familiar to me.
It's the one that's kind of colored and it's going this way. I should have brought it.
It's not in here.
it's,
it's-
I can pull it.
We
It-
brought that up last week.
It talks about salaries and part of Bryce's salaries in there and part of two other employees. So the question is, if we're not supplanting, then that means that they haven't been working full-time. Right? Isn't that what that's telling us?
That's how I viewed it. I talked about that last.
That if, let's say it's only 200 hours of Bryce's, so Bryce has only been working 2080 minus 200.
And
right?
it's full-time now.
And now we're gonna add 200 hours so he can do that. If we're not adding to their workload, then we're
If they're
supplanting.
taking what they've been using for his salary and moving it somewhere else and now taking this,
Mhm.
that's supplanting.
That's
it.
supplanting.
Yeah.
So I know we tentatively approved these, but I'm second guessing that now because of those two issues. Well, I guess it's one issue, but it's on salaries and it's on conferences. I think we're supplanting.
I think it's certainly not embarrassed to ask them to justify and have us demonstrate that we're in compliance with the statute. And so I'm happy to do that. And I'll say there's two issues that need to be resolved first. One, please demonstrate or show me and get specific why this is not supplanting what we have seen your salary, other employees' salaries. And then the conferences where you already allocated funds to attend these conferences, and now you're going to divert those funds elsewhere. And then say, assuming that we satisfy that, our commissioner's intention is to move this to a 1-year agreement with a potential of up to 2 more years of funding based on adequate reporting of success.
And
to the
results, yeah.
Commissioner's sole discretion as whether they'll approve it or not.
How do you feel about
I'm
that?
good with that. And while we're talking about that, remember that he had like a $16,000 or $18,000 line item for a third party.
For a evaluator.
Evaluator.
An evaluator.
So I would like to drill, is that one of his teams now? And so it kind of goes along that same,
And what's what does that person do?
well,
You know?
according to him, that was the one that's evaluating the outcomes, the progress. But my question is that a third party that they're bringing in as an independent, or is that one of their personnel now that's already being paid full-time, that they're taking that money,
And diverting it.
diverting it? So,
Okay.
I asked him about that directly, but I didn't ask him about, okay, where's this person right now? Are they in-house? Are they?
Mhm.
So I think we need to
Sure.
drill
Yeah,
down on
we
that.
need to Be in compliance with that.
With human services, are you okay with that moving forward in that, those ones I'm pretty sure is not supplanting, they're hiring a brand new employee, and then also I think it's advantageous if they can build it now at today's cost.
The actual structure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with that one for sure.
And Jed did want me to emphasize something to the commissioners.
Which I thought this was interesting. I am curious what they think about that.
He
He
just
sent an email.
said, thanks, Chris. I know the commissioners are really focused on using these funds for prevention. If they have questions about the treatment dollars we are spending, please remind them that we have a plan to incrementally decrease the percentage of funds spent on treatment and increase funding for prevention over the life of the opioid settlement funding. I think that he's just saying that first, their biggest crisis is treatment. Once they can actually get a tackle on that, and they.
My only thing is I see them as a 3-year get this building built.
right.
But he's looking at it over the life of the 15 years that they're
An
gonna change
additional
their Yeah,
operate.
that they're now thinking they're getting money every year for the next
I
15
think
years.
it's saying future allocations that they just haven't identified yet, that they'll apply in the future for the
You're
commission.
talking, we were human services.
Right.
Okay, overall, I think it's important for every applicant and every recipient to understand that they're not guaranteed funds over the course of the settlement. They're not. For me, they need to come back, whether it's annually or every 6 months, and they need to show us progress. Cause if we aren't seeing progress, and we're not the experts, so we'll be sitting with a team of people who are. But if we're not seeing progress, we're wasting this one-time money
Yeah.
that we'll never get again.
Outcome based.
You'll
We
cer-
have to see that.
you'll certainly give that message to the health
Yeah.
department. And I can reply to Jed if the commissioners are okay with it, that one going on the agenda, to say, just so you know, this is no commitment for future funding. Commissioners are still deciding how they're going to operate that program, and it's gonna be based off, evidence-based practices, things like that.
We need it to be competitive, because the way I see it, when one organization or one program gets the funding, and then you'll have another one saying, oh, I think we could make a difference, and they'll apply. And we're probably gonna end up with a whole bunch of different programs and organizations who are worthy of the money. And we want them to be competitive, because there will come a time in the next, 3, 4, 5 years, where we're sitting here with more requests than money. And we have to see which ones are the most effective, because we won't be able to fund all of them. And if we can't be shown that by results, we can't make that decision. So I really want it to be competitive. I want them to show why their program is head and shoulders above the next applicant.
Outcome based.
Mhm.
Yes,
So that's and when we open this up to the school districts and or anybody else who's been calling me and you,
Mhm.
that's the message I think we need to give.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
more competition the better. Let's
Because
just not use this as an excuse to grow government and
Yeah,
to reduce somebody's salary to put it with somebody else.
yeah,
That's not what this money's for.
yeah. It's just, I just think
My
it's
opinion.
too important, and it's a one-time
Yeah.
thing. We have one chance to get it right.
Mhm.
And there probably are multiple programs that are effective. And we're gonna be put in a position here in the next few years of deciding which ones are most effective,
Mhm.
because we won't have enough money for all of them. Those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board. I would like to just put some language in there that we would like confirmation that they have had communication or some type of legitimate conversation with the state of Utah to show that their programs are either in sync or aligned with the state of Utah if appropriate. Not that they have to, but I don't want them to ignore that other pot of money down there.
I wonder.
Can they apply for that?
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
wonder if-
50,
when they
50.
apply,
I
if
mean,
they
some
can
of it's even
certify
more
that
than
they
that, it's 2 for
look for
1.
matching opportunities.
So it's that Department of, what did we say it was, DHHS?
Yeah.
The Department of
Department of
Health
Human
and
Services,
They're the ones that have gotten the state tranche.
yeah,
And so we've got to contact Kevin. needs to
just saying,
give us
why
the name of
reinvent the
guy.
wheel if the states come up with a
I
program
know.
that's shown outcomes? And maybe they work for us, maybe they don't, but just to totally ignore them is not the right thing to do either. So I would just like some type of, on that report, please confirm, in writing what communications you've had with the state of Utah,
Money you received.
money you received, or how that we are working in compliance or in conjunction with collaboration with the state of Utah.
You want that on the application
Well, I don't know if it needs to be on the application,
Instead of
I think it
6
just needs to
months?
be in,
or in this?
so when I read that report, I'm gonna ask that question, that should already be answered. Here's what they've done with the state of Utah, hey, look, we talked to the state of Utah, we think they're idiots, we're not doing that,
So it
so.
should be in the reporting.
Should be in the reporting, I think.
Well, maybe what I'll do, because I'm gonna have to come back and update you on what Bryce's answers are, is I'll ask him directly, have you already communicated with Department of Health and Human Services to see if they have matching grant opportunities for this, or this is a program that they support? So I'll ask that ahead of time,
We-
but, oh, sorry.
Yeah, say, no, that's proper.
Do you actually, let me just ask it certainly would not make the health department happy, but I think it's important enough to actually have the conversation. Do you want to put a hold on this one and just make them go through the regular application process that we're setting up?
I think at this point, with the delays that we've caused ourselves, because we've second guessed ourselves,
Yeah.
and with the application being available, why not? They changed it once, right? And then they went back to the original. We've kind of pulled back. Maybe because of the timing of the availability of the application, we just ask them to reapply.
It's completely, I don't know.
So are you thinking we should have them start from scratch or?
I think they're counting on this money. I don't know that they've used their best options. I would think they might have some other options, because when I've listened to that super thing, they talk about these opioid, or no, it's the, what do you, naloxone
No,
vending machines
Mhm.
in certain areas. I mean, I think they have ability to use the funds in different ways than what they've put in the
that's kind of
proposal.
one of the reasons I'd like to maybe just have them apply. They may second, with the questions you take back to them, Chris, they may second guess and think, we're not gonna get this. We need to find a better use,
Better or different?
better.
Which is probably different too.
Naloxone vending machines, that's a better use.
I don't mind, I mean, it's gonna be a shock to their system, but
How about, we could soften, well, maybe, we'll give them an opportunity, Bryce, to respond, show me how that this is not supplanting.
Supplanting.
We'll talk about having to talk with the state and all of that, and just say the commissioners are really looking for an opportunity to put this in the best place that's gonna have the biggest impact. It just, then they'll know that it's not guaranteed, that you're looking at this closely, and then I'll come back and report, and there's always the possibility, and I can emphasize this, that we may need you to apply in the future.
yeah, I don't wanna toss them into, okay, you gotta start from scratch. I'd like to communicate to them, hey, we think you deserve some money. We've committed this in the past. I don't wanna pull the rug out from underneath them, but at the same time, I don't think they've come to us with a clear program right now.
Maybe what we could do is we do the 1 year and say, this is a trial. You've got to come and say, maybe quarterly or whatever we wanna set up, and demonstrate to us the effectiveness of this.
If it's legal, I mean, that's the
If it's
Yeah.
legal.
that's the
Yep.
first test. We
And
need to
then-
find out if it's supplanting. If it is, then they're back at square one anyway.
Because then you've reserved 2/3 of the funding that could still go back, and to say, that gives them something.
It gives them something. Yeah, number one, I agree. If it's not legal, we're back to
Conversation's over,
we're
yeah.
back to square one. If it is legal, then okay, we go to quarterly reporting or semi-annual and
For 1 year,
1 year, and boy, you better come with your guns loaded, because we're not just gonna, send you to 5 conferences a year just to have fun.
Okay. I can do that, and Brian Callen's coming over today for our 2:30.
Thank you, Eddie.
Well, they could have.
So I can discuss that with
Okay,
him,
okay.
him and Michaela.
Well,
today.
maybe they can have fun at night, but get the conferences.
Well, they're scrambling. I think they lost a ton of funds.
They did.
I think they went from 30 employees down to 12. They're trying to see how can we kind of,
I think that's.
you know,
part of it.
I think if they put some thought to it, they could probably come up with a more effective use of it.
Yeah,
But not to say they're not in a good situation to use it. You know, I think they probably are one of the best to use it. They just haven't landed on the right thing quite yet, I don't
Mhm.
think, for 3 years.
I do agree that it almost seems like a scramble because of all the funding they lost.
And it
They
was
lost a lot of
quick.
positions.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, it was
kind of
premature for sure,
Yeah,
because all those ones that were supposed to expire July 1 were pulled in March. And I think that's part of why.
yeah. So they're trying. I mean, I hate to see them lose it. I want them to get it. But I want it to go to the best place too. You know, I want them to be effective with it and put some thought to it. Don't just look for a place to throw the money without it giving results and being effective. So anyway, they'll die. I have a feeling that they'll die if they
Well,
don't think
that's
they're
okay,
getting
we
it.
can explain it. I'm happy to explain it.
It's reasonable. I mean, we have to make sure we follow the statute, and if you get funding for a year, great. That means that you have to just show us that it's working.
If you come
You
back
have
in a
every
year.
opportunity, it's kind of like you're first in line for review.
Mhm. And if you come back after a
Mhm.
year and you show better results than everybody else, you'll get another use.
Yeah, you might get more than you had. Yeah.
Yeah.
We require Visit Ogden to do the same thing. You just say, you know, everybody, this isn't new.
No. No, it's like, come in and prove why we should rehire you.
Yeah. Say, this is your chance to show us.
Do you deserve to have your job again for another year? Yes or no?
And maybe in a year, they'll come up with a different idea.
Well,
Here's a
that-
better way to spend it and apply for that for the second year.
That very well could be. I would hope that they would do that. Say, boy, this is a moving target, but we've, been to one of these conferences we actually went to and they suggested we look at this and guess what? It's a home run.
Mhm.
I hope they do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but it's up to them.
Okay,
Perfect.
We're good.
we good? Yeah, you're
We're
director.
good. So I'll get the human services one on the agenda and then I'll talk to Brian, Bryce and Michaela.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks to
you.
both of you. Okay, item
Thank-
4 on our agenda
Chris.
is adjournment.
So is
Commissioners?
somebody going to talk to the Weaver School District, or do you want me to reach out to them? I mean, I do think we ought to get them.
No, we absolutely.
We
I-
do.
Kind of the same, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk to them and give them the same.
I'm happy to talk to him since I talked to Luke. I'll just say, hey,
You
Okay,
can
I
have the
had a
same
conversation with Ogden City.
do you know her? Gina?
What's it?
Gina Butters.
Oh, yeah, I know her. Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I know
I
Gina.
think it'd be good, because you had that conversation,
Yeah.
have the same conversation,
I
and
just
they know they're treated.
Had the same conversation. Hey, Ogden
Yeah.
City's chomping at the bit. We want to give you guys the same opportunity.
Mhm,
And then I'll have Linnell send you an application.
mhm. Okay,
But the main thing is and I asked Luke, what are you doing now? And they actually did have somewhat of a program put together, but it was,
yeah.
not that, not that effective in his own words.
So one thing I heard this morning from Julie is those CTCs that I guess they get
Mhm.
125,000 a year from some federal funding cut.
Is it?
So I'm like,
Seriously?
that might be an area that they might be requesting for, is to
That's
replace
prevention right
that.
there.
That is prevention.
Who's it from?
CTCs from
The
the federal government.
CTCs from that was part of the
125?
government. That's what she said, was 125 a year for each. I don't know if that's right or not. I don't know how accurate that is, but that might be something they come back and want. And it's not supplanting because it's been taken away. If you're
Wow.
moving your funds somewhere else and then replacing it. then
Right,
that's
right.
supplant.
I get it.
So that's a thought. They
Oh,
might come and say, we lost our funding for the CTCs. We want some there, which I think is good, but you'll have to consider that. Do you want to fund that as well as something else? I want to see them with assemblies in there with, all kinds of
Mhm.
things going on. So they may come back with a pretty
They may
big
come back
request.
with it. Good, I hope they apply.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Okay, commissioners.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned.